Let us tarry no further. Let's explore the wonderful world of today's astro weather. What's happening, everybody? It's me, Robert Phoenix, with a bit of a horsey croaky morning voice. Deep morning voice. Maybe I should read the astro weather like it's the end of the world. This weekend we have the Scorpio moon featuring prominently. There's a deep, dark undercurrent in our personal lives, our tides, our times. Let this be a warning for all of you who will use your emotional energies in ways that are self-serving and satanic. It's a little dark. How is everyone? I was trying to get my coffee in me and jumpstart the day here. That's some good power coffee right there. Some absolutely good power coffee. I hope everybody's having a great day and enjoying yourself, whatever you're doing, or you're in the midst of it, or your day has been productive in whatever way, shape, or form you deem it to be. So let's jump in, shall we? You know, I've been watching some of the testimony in Congress with the Twitter papers or Twitter files, and with Matt Taibbi and Michael Schellenberger. Man, crazy, right? It was really crazy, especially yesterday morning, because we had the inconjunct with the moon, the final degrees of, actually the inconjunct with the moon with in Libra, and what was it? I believe it was Mercury, right? So we had this inconjunct going on, Mercury and Pisces. And then yesterday you had Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who is grilling Michael Schellenberger, who is one of the two journalists who are part of the Twitter files release. And she's doing everything in her power to, of course, demonstrate that he's a Republican shill and to reinforce the commonly held narrative that there's a certain side who has their finger on the pulse of true justice and truth. And so I'm watching this exchange happen, and it occurs to me, oh, well, why don't we look at Debbie Wasserman Schultz's chart? Why don't we look at Michael Schellenberger's chart? And lo and behold, we have Michael Schellenberger, a Pisces, and Debbie Wasserman Schultz, a Libra, right? And we were talking about the moon, Libra, in conjunct with Mercury and Pisces yesterday. And there they were, right? They were not connecting, let's put it that way. So it's always interesting to see how these things play out and, you know, sort of like trust your instincts a little bit, like what's going on here? And lo and behold, the aspects get fleshed out. So here we are, the moon is at 24 Libra. Is everybody getting along? Is everybody getting along today? We have this Venus opposition. Now, Venus is starting to separate. You see that? For a while, we had that Venus-Jupiter conjunction, and then you can even see it in the sky, how tight that thing was. It was beautiful, especially when we had the moon there. It was really quite something, right? So Venus is starting to separate a little bit, and it's coming into a closer conjunction with Juno. That's wedding bells energy. I talked about this yesterday. If you were going to get married, the next week would be fantastic, right? Enthusiastic and fantastic. Planting your nuptials in the sweet and fertile ground of the true node in Taurus, so that your relationship in your family can bloom richly, right? Anyway, Venus is separated out a little bit, and it's not having that same kind of expansive feeling of generation, but it's still there. We have Venus opposing the moon early today, and I talked a little bit about this yesterday. And the moon is your own personal needs emotionally, right? So we're all trying to find balance today with the Libra. It's a pretty good moon. I like the Libra moon. In fact, I like it so much I think I'll keep mine. So we're trying to find balance and be fair. This is the fairness moon. And Venus in Aries is like, fuck fair. Take me on a vacation, damn it. Take me on a vacation. Enough of the fair stuff. Let's get in our car and just go right now. Right. So we have some interesting negotiation today. Very interesting negotiation, because there is this kind of immediacy with Venus. And in the third decan, it is restless. It's in the Sagittarian decan, so Venus is a little restless here. And it's feeling a lot like spring in my part of the world. We've been having temperatures in the 80s. I don't know what else is going on. But California, you've got some snow out there. Might have some cabin fever, no doubt, right? So there is a bit of restlessness with Venus, and even like experiencing something new. Now, if you're in a relationship, right, like an established relationship, I would say this weekend, try to experience something different and new. Do something you haven't done before. Get out of your rut with Venus in Aries. Because when Venus goes into Taurus, everything becomes much more fixed and grounded. I love Venus in Taurus. I think it's a great aspect. Venus in Aries, of course, is in its fall, right? So it doesn't exhibit the same kind of patience that Venus and Libra can exhibit. It's all about now. And as we see Venus here move into a tighter square with Pluto, as the weekend progresses, those energies get more intense. We throw the Scorpio moon, which will kick in tomorrow. And now all of a sudden, there is an intensity with relating. There's a feeling like things have to change. Just be careful with the Venus-Pluto square, because the possibility of something being able to take root long term is just around the corner. Now, sometimes we got to prune the dead wood. That's just the way it is. Sometimes we have to prune the dead wood. You get into a Venus-Pluto square, and that's exactly what can happen, especially in the last days of Pluto and Capricorn. For now, it'll be back. Don't worry. Don't worry. If you've loved Pluto and Capricorn so much, you get to have another crack at it. A couple more times, actually. So you just have to give it up for a while. It'll come back. Frankly, I have not enjoyed Pluto and Capricorn. I'm just saying. And even now, it's trining my sun, so I'm getting some good benefit out of it. But as a whole, it has been, I think, one of the hardest Pluto transits that we've been through, not just in this country, but the world over, right? Everything's getting turned upside down, and the old paradigm is dying. And sometimes, there are parts of the old paradigm that need to die. Ain't gonna lie. But the way that it's being set up is that everything has to die. And I'm not so sure about that. Let's talk about the moon in Scorpio over the weekend. It's going to come in tomorrow. We've got a hot front coming in tomorrow. Moon is coming in hot, hitting that south node. And whatever is and has been lying beneath the surface of things will certainly come up. There's a deep kind of intensity and kind of a psychosexual energy that's always associated with the Scorpio moon. Whether the desire around the Scorpio moon is consummated or not, it's always embedded in that moon. And so, when it comes in tomorrow and begins to conjunct the south node, it's resurrecting intensity. And if things have been buried emotionally, psychologically, the moon hitting the south node tomorrow will bring those things up, for better or worse. I mean, there is some interesting things going on. It's going to trine Saturn. It's as we move through the weekend, it's going to trine Mercury and then trine the sun. So it feels like there's an initial period during the weekend. Let's start with tomorrow. And there is this resurrection of things that have been buried. And sometimes it can be okay, right? Like, let's say there's a passion that you've buried, something that you've had to put the brakes on, or something that for whatever reason you just said, I can't go there. This is not anything that I can handle at this time. Well, it comes up, right? It comes up. And depending on how long it's been buried and to what extent you buried it, it can be very intense, because that's the nature of Scorpio. There's an I in intensity and there's an I in Scorpio, right? I mean, it's there. The other thing is mothers. Hello, the moon is the mother. And this is kind of a mother weekend as well, as it comes in and hits that south node conjunction. And maybe, it's a period where you might look at your relationship with your mother, especially over the weekend, and kind of resurrect the bones of that relationship. And you might be able to see it in a bit of a different light, especially as that moon slides into the trines with Saturn and Mercury and the sun. If there's ghosts or pain or wounds or hurt around your mother, your family, this weekend could be actually a pretty good weekend to kind of air it out, but not necessarily air it out in a way that is accusatory or polarizing. Well, how do you do that? Well, maybe you just air it out with yourself. Have a really honest, introspective dialogue with yourself. And, with the moon in Libra, you have to set the stage by being fair. What's your role? What's your role in all of this, right? What's their role in all of this? And this weekend offers a tremendous opportunity to transmute a lot of the fixed and buried hidden energies around wounds, around family. And my God, have we not experienced deep wounds around family over the last 2 years? I mean, it's been horrible, absolutely horrible. So facing some of this with the Scorpio moon this weekend, I think could be quite good. The other thing with Scorpio, though, is that there's no guarantee that things are going to necessarily work out the way you want to work out, right? It has to go through its own process. And you have to face your own fear. You have to face your own compulsion. You have to face your own desire. And then the beautiful thing about Scorpio, and especially this alignment with Pisces, that you let it go. You let it go and Jesus take the wheel. Because there's plenty of Piscean energy here over the weekend that allows for this graceful transformation of the deep wound. Like, if we could just do this as a culture, this would be a great weekend to just kind of air things out. And can we just move on? Can we just realize, look, we're not the same. I was thinking about this before the stream today. I was thinking about it from like a DNA standpoint. We're just not the same. We have different genetic markers. To think that we're the same would be ludicrous. And yet the paradox of the universe is that when you really drill down to the most organic evolutionary principles, we are the same. Theoretically, we invest in things like progeny, family, preservation, and life. Those are the things that unite and bind us, in spite of our differences. So this is a weekend where if I could dial something up out here, it would be a way for us to move beyond the deep wound, pain, hurt. Like, yeah, let's all recognize it. Let's have a weekend of deep wound, pain, hurt recognition, and then bury our sorrows. and then ask for forgiveness, right? Ask for forgiveness inside of ourselves, from others, from God, wherever you're going to say, hey, you know, we've done wrong. We've all done wrong. Let's move on. To me, this would be a wonderful exercise for this weekend. Will it happen? I don't know. I doubt it. But that's kind of the energy that's in the air. But you could have your own personal revolution, your own personal evolution in your own life. And, you know, the revolution, the real revolution, the inner revolution starts one person at a time, and that's you. So you can do that this weekend. Because there is tremendous release, potential for tremendous release. I guess we have to talk about Mars, huh? Mars Neptune square. When I was watching Matt Taibbi and Michael Schellenberger last night getting absolutely grilled, we are on the hunt, man. There is a witch hunt. There is a witch hunt for scapegoats, and boy, did the so-called left just want to nail these two guys to a cross. It was very interesting watching Matt Taibbi. I'm sorry, it was Matt Taibbi was getting, I apologize, it wasn't Michael Schellenberger. It was Matt Taibbi, the Pisces, and Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the Libra. And it was really interesting watching Matt Taibbi get hammered. But he's so good at understanding nuance. And this guy's been in hot zones and war zones. You know, he's born March 2nd, so that puts his sun at right about 11 Pisces. Look where Mercury is. Mercury's right on Matt Taibbi's sun. So if there is going to be a time when he's going to be at his best in terms of communication, it's this time, right? And he's able to fend off these kinds of aggressive pursuits that are coming from clearly one side of the aisle. It's fascinating theater, right? And I would highly recommend it. I'd highly recommend watching some of these clips, because you're getting to see the whole scapegoating process in the leaks, right? The whole thing with the Twitter files and with January 6th, it's leaky. It's leakage. And this is where we have Mars just coming in and taking that blade and just puncturing, right? Just puncturing everything that's been kind of held up and in abeyance here in Pisces. And then the dam breaks, right? You just see like the dam breaking down here. It's good. It's good, right? I mean, but it's not good enough. I mean, if we really wanted to get through this, the dam would really break, and then people would understand that they're complicit in continuing to create this illusion of separation, divide, conquer, spite, envy, malice, right? I mean, there's all these energies are bound up here, and now I'm spouting the gospel of Mars and Gemini coming in and just taking an axe to all of this, and then having this stuff just bleed out right now. Will it create more division? Maybe. But this stuff has been essentially dammed up for years now. And I'm not just talking about 2021 and January 6th and what happened in 2020 and using Twitter and all the social platforms, media platforms to censor. No, this has been going on for a while. This is, so we're at this point now. This is one of these, it's really interesting watching Mars and how slowly Mars has kind of done its thing. And now Mars has just taken an axe to all of these Piscean planets, particularly Neptune and the Sun. And man, there are people who have invested in a dark version of the status quo, and there's going to be hell to pay. The other thing too, and I'm talking about this from a collective perspective now, Lindsey Graham has decided to declare war on Mexico. Hello, there's your Mars. And now we got a war on drugs, Mars square Neptune. That's a whole other thing. That's a whole other thing. I don't want to get into it right now. I can spend an hour talking about that. But we can see it, right? We can see these things getting played out in the world around us, in the movie that we wake up and watch every day. The moon is squaring Pluto, and even though the moon is fair in Libra, the moon-Pluto square brings with it some intensity, right? Some intensity. We have energy, passion. Now we have, hey, let's kind of balance this out. And then Pluto in the midpoint, adding some heat to all of it. But I do like the trine, the moon trine Saturn, moon trine Mars. So you can't play peacemaker. You can play peacemaker if you want to. You can play mediator, synergizer. Watch out. Don't get caught. Don't get caught up in a role that you're not meant to play, right? You ever see somebody break up a fight, and then all of a sudden the two people are fighting turn on the person that's breaking up the fight? Yeah, that's the energy we're talking about today. So if you're going to do that, just know that you could wind up in the crossfire of two people that are trying to work some shit out, and all of a sudden, hey, we have more in common here now than we thought. It's this asshole. Let's go after him, right? So it's that kind of energy this morning. But I do like the trine. I like Saturn coming in, even at that degree, and trining Mars and trining the moon, because we're trying to build something here that's also got some sustainability, some gravitas. It's an interesting day. And again, Fridays is when they always dump the news. Keep your eyes on the news. All right. Yesterday I was wondering, man, did I cross a line with Bobby Fischer? I'm not. I try to find people that are interesting and at times controversial, and at times unusual. And Bobby Fischer, very clear about his opinions and beliefs, and I tried to explain that with his chart, right, with Pluto in his first house and all the other things that went on in Bobby Fischer's chart in his life. And maybe I could have chosen a less volatile quote by Bobby Fischer, but he's got Pluto in his first house. That's the quote, right? That is the quote. Anyway, I have another person today who is slightly controversial. What's interesting about today is the two characters born today, and they both have gone down in the infamy and the annals of this country. Today is Osama bin Laden's birthday, whoever that is. And I was looking at his chart. There's no official rating for it. So I was like, if it's an X chart, I'm just not going to read it. I have a AA chart, and the AA chart today is another person who has played a notorious role in American history and culture, and that is James Earl Ray. Yeah, I think he's one of the first three-letter killers, right? Ever since there was James Earl Ray, everybody's got a first. John Wayne Gacy, James Earl Ray. Anyway, James Earl Ray, first of all, let's look at his chart. He's a Pisces horse. Sun in the 8th house. We'll talk a little bit about that. The thing that really, when you study James Earl Ray's life, you begin to see his chart play out. So Scorpio Moon, right there. One of the things, when you read his bio, you'll find that James Earl Ray was a drifter, and he was all over the place. And when you see somebody who's a drifter, you have to ask yourself, well, where did they get their money? Now, it was easier to drift back in the 1950s and 1960s. But we see here he's got the true node in Gemini. Now, as I was going through the James Earl Ray story, he had this yellow Mustang, which is going to stick out like a sore fucking thumb. He had this yellow Mustang that he drove around in. To this day, that yellow Mustang is on display. All right, that's Gemini. That's the true node in Gemini. He's got the south node in what? Sagittarius. What is Sagittarius? It's the centaur. It's the horse. What did he drive? He drove a Mustang. And with Saturn here, the Mustang is still around. That's crazy, right? It's crazy. You can see it play out here. What did James Earl Ray do for a living? Well, he tried to, he lived in Mexico for a while, where he hired prostitutes to make porn movies. There's your sun in the 8th house. There's your moon in Scorpio down in the 4th house. So he's got this life. It's a strange life. He moves all over the place. And he's probably somebody that's on somebody's radar. Let's just put it that way. Now, the thing that really grabbed me about his chart is Neptune. And I talk about Neptune, especially in the 1st house, as what? It is the aspect of the scapegoat. Ruler of Pisces right here. And it is conjunct what fixed star? Regulus. What do they call Regulus? The king of the fixed stars. Oh, Leo rising. What does Leo rising represent? It represents kings and queens. And what is he most famously and notoriously known for? The assassination of Martin Luther King. Now, the question is here, did he do it? If you ask Judge Joe Brown, the answer would be no. Judge Joe Brown is convinced that he didn't do it. The other thing that's interesting about James Earl Ray is he had an ability to escape from prison. He did it on more than one occasion. He spent time in prison actually before he was lined up to assassinate Dr. King. So he was on the radar. This guy is one of those guys that's just on the radar. He's kind of like Lee Harvey Oswald. I guess Lee Harvey Oswald predates him with the 3 names, right? So the question is, did he kill him? Did James Earl Ray kill Martin Luther King? Now, Ray has steadfastly, he passed away. I think he died in 1998, if I'm not mistaken. He has steadfastly claimed that he was set up. And with this chart, I don't think that's too far of a stretch, especially with Neptune there. It's very hard to get a clear picture on Ray and who he is and his activities. I mean, look at him. He's got that kind of, Neptune 1st house, just sort of tousled and kind of, slightly unshaven. And, this guy epitomizes, the personification of a drifter. Somebody who is primed for the picking. Now, the other thing, too, I noticed this about James Earl Ray. If you've ever seen the movie Taxi Driver, part of it is based on James Earl Ray. Part of Travis Bickle's character. So we have Neptune in the 1st house in cinema. Part of Travis Bickle's character is based on James Earl Ray. How does that come across on the screen? Well, first of all, in the movie Taxi Driver, Travis Bickle, Robert De Niro, volunteers for a political campaign, right? There's a guy who is spouting populist rhetoric. And so Bickle likes what he has to say and he wants to volunteer for the campaign. James Earl Ray volunteered for the George Wallace campaign. So there's a parallel there, right? And the other thing is that there's a scene in Taxi Driver where Travis Bickle takes, what's her name, to the porter. Her name, Cheryl, I just had her name in my head. Man, I just had it. It was right there, and then it went out. He takes her to a porn movie. Right? He takes her to a porn movie on their first date. And that's like it's like a nod to James Earl Ray and his brief stint in Mexico trying to produce porn movies. So when you see the movie Taxi Driver, there are elements in there that are pulled from James Earl Ray's life. I can guarantee you that right now. Pluto in the 12th house. Well, you know, we've talked about Pluto in the 12th house before. Fame and infamy. Sometimes they're one and the same. Then we have Jupiter in Aries, the gun, right? The gun. And it's expanded right up here in the 9th house, and it's squaring Pluto. Truth, lie, participant, co-participant. With Neptune in his first house, I don't think we'll ever know. All right, that's it. Have a great day. I'll be back here at 12 noon. We're going to have Lyle Coyote on the show, and he's a Hollywood insider. Lyle, a good friend of the show, great guy. He was an agent in Hollywood for a number of years. So we're going to break down, you know, some of these psyops that we've seen recently. So we'll talk about the Will Smith slap. That's one thing we'll talk about. We'll talk about Woody Harrelson and his appearance on Saturday Night Live, and hopefully I can coax a few interesting little tidbits of inside baseball from Lyle and get a glimpse as to how the Hollywood world works or worked at a certain point in time. If you are interested in CBD, let me just tell you, truehempscience.com. That's truehempscience.com. That is your place to go, because that CBD is by far the best I've ever had. And I got my bottle right here, 19. I'm going to have a couple of drops right after the show. And if you order $100 or more, please use the code 15. That's 15 MINS. 15 MINS, and you'll get free product. It's a beautiful thing. And if you spend $150 or more, you can get free shipping. I appreciate each and every one of you. I appreciate your support. I appreciate the fact that we have this invisible community that we're part of every single day, or for the most part, every single day. And even when we're not together, we're together, right? So much love to you all, much appreciation to you all. Blessings to you all.